All right, everybody, this is Eric Kane, the meteorologist with the Weather Service in Newport, Morehead City. It's just after 9 o'clock this morning. It's Thursday morning. Continue to see some increasing trends that are concerning for our area. I'm sure you've seen some of our increased language. If you watched at the beginning of the week, we talked about moderate impacts, and then we looked at those probabilities increasing. Then we started using words like major, and we tried to clarify what that meant. And then we continue to ramp up our language. This is our first briefing that has the winter storm watch that was issued overnight. A lot of stuff to unpackage. I know a lot of focus is on winter weather, as it should be, but also very windy conditions, especially on the Outer Banks. So we've got high wind watches there, issues with coastal flooding, a lot to talk about. But what I want you to pay attention to on that first slide is at the bottom, impacts may last into the majority of next week. If we get these snowfall amounts that we're forecasting with cold weather, it's going to last a long time next week. So while the falling snow is this weekend, really want to let people know that it's going to be a while until we get rid of the snow on the roadways with those cold temperatures and also the higher amounts of snow that we're forecasting. The other thing you'll notice in the briefing, these colors have certainly ramped up. The pink kind of jumps off the map, the extreme impact. Snow can begin as early as Saturday before we wake up. It could be intermittent on Saturday, maybe still mixing with a little rain down at the coast, but it really picks up in intensity Saturday evening into Sunday morning. One of our forecasters, gave me some notes on the storm itself and talked about the pressure with this storm might drop about 29 millibars in a short period of time from Saturday afternoon to Sunday afternoon. What that means is, as that storm's really cranking up off the coast, our winds could really pick up and the intensity of the snowfall. And that's what we're really focused in on Saturday night, Sunday morning with that rate of snow. Wind, very, very strong winds through a good chunk of the weekend. And then the other thing I want to call your attention to, the cold weather. It's going to be cold this weekend, really peaking Sunday morning with that falling snow, dangerously cold wind chill values below zero. But notice how it lingers into next week. So not only is the snow going to stick around, especially if we have the depth that we think we'll have, but our other concern is people becoming stranded. We did a radio interview earlier this morning. A lot of you all know this, but we don't get paid any different to alarm you or to hype anything up. If anything, it's worse on our lives. Away from our family, a lot of us will be sleeping here this weekend, so we don't benefit from hyping things up. But when we wave our hands during higher impact events, we really want people to pay attention. So we created this slide to talk about that. The concern with that falling snow, drifting snow, if people get stranded on the roads in combination with the cold weather and dangerously cold wind chill values, very, very concerned. So not advising travel at all this weekend. Again, if these amounts come to fruition, this could really last into the majority of next week. So this is a serious storm. I know we're still in the winter storm watch phase, but we don't use language like this lightly. We still have some time to make some tweaks. We still have some time to make adjustments to who will see the highest amounts, but everybody's going to be significantly impacted. So I really want people to pay attention to the storm and take it seriously. This really exemplifies it on this map. This is the major impacts map, 70 to 80% chance. Again, we're still a little ways out. It's Thursday morning, talking snow arriving Saturday morning. So to have values that high this early is significant. Major impacts include things like dangerous or impossible driving conditions, just to really hone in on that point. The other thing I want to show you, you've seen this in the briefing, we try to show thresholds. I'm going to hop out of this in a second to show what we mean in terms of potential banding of snow, but overall, it looks like a high chance everybody sees more than 4 inches of snow. Again, that pressure drop, really explosive development off the coast. As that happens Saturday evening into Sunday morning, anticipating snowfall rates of 1 to 2 inches or more per hour as we peak. And with the combination of wind and falling snow, blowing snow likely, especially northernly exposed areas. So if you're in a rural area, farm field, exposed to the north or nearby water, that's where we think we'll have the poorest visibility and the blowing and drifting snow. So at least 4, pretty much a guarantee for all of us. It's hard to say that in meteorology, but those probabilities are extremely high. Very high chance for upwards of 8 or more inches of snow. You're talking 60 to 70% chance. Again, that's a pretty high percentage this far out. Whiteout conditions because of that high winds that we'll show you in a second, and travel potentially life-threatening. Again, Don't want folks to be on the road this weekend, and those impacts lasting into the majority of next week. Probability of more than a foot of snow. This is where I'm going to step back and show you some different things. This is as it stands as of now, 9:06 on Thursday morning. The trends continue to go upward, and we could have localized blizzard conditions in that outlined area. But the thing I want to point out is it's incredibly difficult to pinpoint where these heavy bands of snow will be. As of this morning, it looks like maybe northeast North Carolina, but by this afternoon, it could shift farther south. We really don't know where the heaviest bands of snow will set up until it's almost here. Very easy to say significant snow, 4 to 8 inches plus across our area, but that more than a foot of snow is hard to pinpoint. So we're going to try to give you some perspective on that. I'm going to hop out and show you a tool that we were showing yesterday. This shows probability of snow, and in this one, it's amount of snow. So what you're looking at right now, we'll zoom in a little bit, is the 25th percentile. This is a very conservative estimate on the lower end, 6 to 8 inches. Again, very likely across our area as we get through the weekend. I'm going to change this to the mean, which is the average, 10 inches. So it would be very good wording to say 6 to 10 is kind of the most likely scenario as of now. You'll notice on our website, I'm going to show you in a second, it is only through 7 a.m. We have not officially released our first snowfall forecast. That will be this afternoon. So right now, 6 to 10, conservative estimate. That's between the 25th and the percentile and the mean. So 6 to 10 is very reasonable. 75th percentile, you get upwards of a foot. And the thing I want to show you is, I know your eye is drawn toward the 17 inches in Goldsboro and the 20 inches in Kill Devil Hills. It came down with this most recent update, 19, 20 inches. What I want you to pay attention to, like what we talk about with hurricanes, with high winds or rainfall, the overall 6 to 10 plus is what I want you to pay attention to. But just know that the potential is there for a lot more snow, but it could be anywhere in our forecast area. Those bands can be very narrow and localized. So even though it's up toward northeast North Carolina now, some of our models suggest it may be a little bit farther south. So just because you're in Jacksonville or Duplin County or New Bern and Greenville, and you're not in that highest amount on this graphic, doesn't mean it's not going to shift around a little bit. Doesn't mean the forecast is going to be a drastic change, but those fine tuning, that doesn't happen until within 12 to 24 hours. So just keep that in mind. And then since we've got some partners on that need to make decisions based on the worst case scenario, well over a foot and a half of snow is in the realm of possibility. Again, you see the brighter reds right now is northeast North Carolina, but we've got some red showing up back toward Lenoir and Wayne County, which is just out of our forecast area. So really anyone on the table can have that possibility of a foot and a half of snow. The most likely at this point, very conservative, would be in that 6 to 10 inch range. I hope that made sense to folks. We throw a lot of probabilities in there. We throw a lot of different things, but 6 to 10-ish is very conservative, very comfortable. But that foot to foot and a half, Eastern North Carolina is in the bullseye for this event. So we want to take this storm seriously. And there's many aspects to it. We're going to hop in now to some other things to talk about. We mentioned the wind chill and cold temperatures. So I want to talk a little bit about that. And then we'll wrap things up and turn it over to you for questions. So we mentioned cold. We have the cold air mass already in place. Wind chill values below 0 Sunday morning. So again, advising against travel. We don't want folks out on the road. Cold weather is one of the biggest killers in winter storms, along with shoveling snow. So take it easy. If you're not usually working out a lot, it can be very strenuous. We do think it'll be more of a powdery, dry snow eventually, which will make it a little easier to shovel, and that may hopefully reduce the potential for power outages. But some of those places closer to the coast with slightly milder temperatures may have a wet snow at the onset. But bottom line, it's cold, and we do think it's going to stick around for a while, and that also makes it very dangerous if you happen to be stranded on the roads. So we talked a lot about snow. It's going to be breezy everywhere later Saturday into Sunday. So blowing and drifting snow likely, again, especially in those open exposed areas. But look at those wind gusts, 55 to 65 on the Outer Banks. Again, it's a very strong storm system developing right off our coast, and that could cause those strong winds, especially by the coast, but That also leads to the potential for things like coastal flooding. Marine conditions, very, very large waves. We'll kind of skip by this. Coastal flooding is what we're concerned with those winds, especially at the coast. Areas of greatest concern on a northeast wind initially would be Oceanside. And then as we switch around to the northwest at this point, that would be a focus down toward Ocracoke and Hatteras. But for our friends in down east and on the backside, Kitty Hawk and those areas, can't let our guard down with the northwest wind. 2 to 4 feet of inundation above ground level. And then, of course, you add waves to that on Oceanside. So this is likely to lead travel impacts on Highway 12, Dare County, Hyde. If you're on, you can certainly ask questions, but I advise call our staff, call the number that's at the end of the briefing, and we can walk you through some scenarios if you need any help for specifics. This is kind of just a more over-level briefing. We're about to wrap things up here. We're not quite the day before, but this is the time to really kind of finalize what you're going to get. I know a lot of people are already heading out to the store, things like that, but just think of things that you would need this weekend and the majority of next week if you couldn't get out. So if you've got that prescription that's going to run out next Wednesday, maybe you want to go ahead and fill that. If you don't have meals through the middle of next week, you might want to go out and do that. You certainly want to have things that you can heat up without power, but also just having those supplies on hand would be a good thing. A lot of us have this from hurricane season, so we may be in good shape. It's just a different time of year we may be using it. Miss Stacy asked this question from Onslow County. This is a great resource, weather.gov/forecast points. You can see hourly precipitation, when is the snow going to arrive. You can also see how much snow is going to fall for that specific location. So you definitely want to check that out for more specialized information.